Good evening, everyone. I will go ahead and call to order the Danville Board of Education regular meeting for November 20th, 2017. We will start our meeting this evening by approving the meeting agenda.
I make a motion to approve of the meeting agenda.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Now we will move on to the presentations. Are there any board member comments at this time?
I'd like to say I was really impressed with the Holocaust display that we've had in Gravely Hall. I think it's going to be here how much longer?
Through the end of the month.
Through the end of the month, and it's really a really moving thing and very just wonderful to see. So I would encourage whoever hasn't gone to see it to go see that.
I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that was involved with Dancing with the Stars. I hope everybody that was here was able to come. It was another amazing night for our school system. And I know everybody from Patty Taylor in food service to obviously the Education Foundation to the principals to students. It was a wonderful, wonderful event and showcased our students and our teachers and some faculty in such a fun way. And obviously, anytime you can raise over $23,000 and know that it's going back to our schools and to the foundation is a really great thing. So thank you so much to everybody that was involved with that wonderful fundraiser. All right, at this time, Dr. Look.
I want to echo the Dancing with the Danville Stars. When you think about the amount of money raised during holiday season, during tax season, for the Danville community to open up wallets a little bit further to make contributions to the school is one of the most clear endorsements of the work that's going on for kids in our building. So I do want to say thanks for the effort that was put forward and the contributions that come back, and knowing that these dollars go right back into the classrooms with our teachers and with our students. Second, I want to make sure that we're all aware that our football team lives on to play another day. They will be practicing on Thanksgiving, which is a special honor in the fall football world as they prepare for the semifinals against Glasgow. Keep in mind that that game is played at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central time. Glasgow's on Central time, so it's a little shift in clocks. And the start times vary for just that reason, so 8 o'clock Eastern time. If for some reason you cannot make it to the game in person, please tune in to 12:30 a.m. WHR Hometown Radio for the live play-by-play with alumnus Joe Mathis. So it's a chance to follow the game, cheer on the ads, as we are one step away from the big dance. And let's see if we can't get there. Obviously, in a couple days, it's Thanksgiving, which is always a special time for all of us, our families, to have a break and give thanks for those around us who fill our lives with joy and love and support and systems that make all of our worlds whole. So happy Thanksgiving from the Danville schools.
All right, at this time, most of you are here for some student recognition, so we will go ahead and move into that. And let's see, who do we have?
Jenny Rogers, how about your first tonight?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you. First, I would like to recognize some of our 3rd and 4th grade students from last year, who are now our 4th and 5th grade students, who scored distinguished in every area on K-Prep. So, your name, please receive your award. Brooklyn Brown, Abel Goodwin, Maggie Schomer, Moira Kelly, Gage Ross, Jackson Thornberry,
Mom, Dad,
I also have one more to recognize. This student had this book read to her in a library class, and the teacher said, if you want to draw a picture in response to one of these drawings, I'll enter your artwork into a contest. And Miss Ava Carpenter made a drawing in response to this photograph. And she won the contest and is being recognized as the winner of the Connecting with Characters contest. And from the Library Association, they sent her a autographed copy from the author of this book. So Ava, come on down and get your book.
Wait, hold on. You good? You good? Okay.
Okay.
All right. I also have some students that I wanted to recognize. These are based on their K-Prep scores. And the students that you'll see tonight have something in common, a distinguished rating in one or more of the categories. So the first name goes to Grayson Johnson for K-Prep Distinguished in Math, and then K-Prep or Proficient in Reading. And I have to say he was 1 point away from that distinguished rating, but Grayson Johnson. The next name is Keon Burgess for Distinguished in Reading and Language Mechanics and Proficient in Math. So Keon, come on up. Anaya Bird for Distinguished in Reading and Language Mechanics and Proficient in Math. Tyler Clarkson, Distinguished in Reading and Language Mechanics. Carmine Canese, Distinguished in Reading and Language Mechanics, Proficient in Math. Jonah McKnight, Distinguished in Math and Proficient in Reading and Language Mechanics. Mallory Murphy, Distinguished in Math and Language Mechanics, Proficient in Reading. Richa Patel, Distinguished in Language Mechanics and Proficient in Math. Christine Preer, Distinguished in Language Mechanics, Proficient in Reading and Math. And then the last two have a distinct characteristic. They were distinguished all across the board. So the first one goes to Yoselin Martinez, Distinguished in Reading, Math, and Language Mechanics. And then the other one that was also distinguished across the board, Reading, Math, and Language Mechanics, goes to Ben Tibbles.
One, two, three.
Fantastic job. All right, so that is it for the student recognition. So you're more than welcome to join us for the rest of the meeting, but it will not hurt our feelings if you're ready to scoot out. Okay, so we are moving on to the personnel notifications on the agenda. Obviously just some information for the board. If there are any questions at this time? All right. So then we will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting.
to make a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes from October 3rd, October 16th, October 23rd, and October 31st. Meeting minutes is submitted.
Second.
All right, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passed. Okay, and then now we are moving on to the policy revision, second reading.
If you remember, this was a discussion of adjustments to our family medical leave. Teresa's here to answer any additional questions you might have.
All we're doing is changing it from concurrently to consecutively.
And so there's two, one for classified.
One for certified, one for
Okay.
classified.
So that's just the difference.
Do you have any questions?
I make a motion for the approval of the policy revisions for board policies 03.12322 and 03.22322 as submitted.
Second.
All right. No other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, and now we will move on down to our presentation from schools.
Mr. Cornett, you want to open it up for us?
I do. Dr. Luke had asked us, myself and the principals, to come up with maybe a response to our most current EOC K-Prep general ACT score, assessment scores. And we kind of did around some questions to prompt them. And we said, just take 5 minutes and kind of come up with some things that are going on that are very focused, that are very deliberate, they're very purposeful, and we're using those words a lot in our classrooms and in the office, and just making sure that it's for the goal of proficiency for every student. And you're going to hear things from many grants that we started for Title I, certain classrooms, to some new testing programs, the high school called CERT, to a renewed focus on engagement strategies. Hear a lot of things that either are different than in the past, or there's a renewed focus on those. There's more walkthroughs happening in our classrooms than ever before, and just making sure that we're focusing on that every student is getting the best education, and that we're all moving towards proficiency. So Ms. Sarah, go ahead and ask her to go first, and so from there we can do the high school, and then elementary can go for that. So if you have any questions of myself before I go back. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So first, you all know 5 minutes is hard for me, so I'm going to talk a little fast, probably. So the questions we were given are to highlight some things K-Prep and math-wise, so reading and math, and then some interventions that are in place. So what you'll see is I've grouped it. First, you'll see reading, and I've taken the growth in the state percent of proficient and distinguished and compared it to our growth. Even though we're still below the state average, you'll see that from 14-15 to 16-17 in 3 years, the state percentage of proficient and distinguished has moved up 3.1%, while BATE has moved up 6.3% in the past 3 years. So we're still not there, but we're doubling the growth of the state in the past 3 years. And from 14-15 to 16-17, the state percentage of novice reduction in reading went down 1.7%, while we went down 3.1%. So up in proficient and distinguished is good, and then down in novice reduction is good. So we went down more than the state did in the past 3 years, even though what you all saw as far as the state average, we're not at the state average, but we're working really hard to get there. And then that chart, I won't go over that extensively with you, but Donda put together these two charts for me that took a K-Prep linking study from MAP, and it took our fall MAP scores and linked it to what should be projected for K-Prep. So this is just a projection. It's not set in stone, and these projections are never 100%, but based on fall math, this is kind of where we lie as far as our current students in novice, apprentice, proficient, and distinguished in reading, if that makes sense. Any questions at this point? And then I did the same thing for math. So you'll see that the state percentage of proficient and distinguished in math has moved up 4.2%, while we moved up 8.5% in the past 3 years. And then they look a little better than us in novice reduction, but only by 0.7%, not even by a full percentage point. And then the math chart is there too, that links our fall math scores to K-Prep projections, which we'll do this for winter and spring too. Donna's back there nodding her head, just because we like to see how the two go together, and we like to see if they actually match up as well as they do in this chart. And you'll see that the numbers look really well, look really good across the board as far as proficient, distinguished, and projections. And then I'll go really quickly through this intervention list because it's long. Michelle and I make this list, and we were like, oh my gosh, how are we doing all this? But we're doing all this. So we have a double block of English language arts in both 6th and 8th grades. All 6th grade students have it, and about 60% of the 8th grade students have it, roughly. Any student who's not a service learner or has the second part of Spanish 1 typically doesn't have that reading and writing class. The 6th grade ELA position is funded by that position that you all gave us. Reading and math intervention at all grade levels. Students are placed based on math, K-Prep, in-class performance, and standards mastery and mastery connect. We look at that every midterm, every 4.5 weeks, to see if we need to adjust rosters. And if roster adjustments need to be made, we pull kids out and put them back in enrichment rotation, and we pull kids in that need to be in. We just purchased Study Island, which somebody had questioned that at the work session. Study Island creates a learning path for each student in the building in reading and math based on their individual math data. We have an AmeriCorps position posted through the AmeriCorps Corporation to provide another interventionist in reading and or math. We haven't been able to hire for that yet because the application pool hasn't been that great, but it's still posted. We're still hoping to have somebody for the spring semester at least. Planning days have been almost solely utilized at this point for planning for intervention classes. We have a weekly PLC protocol where week 3 we look at student data for the purpose of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 interventions. And I forgot this, but week 4 we look at walkthrough data and see where we need to make improvements as teachers. Are we using our learning targets intentionally? Does our instruction match our learning targets? Are we using formative assessment in the classroom, etc.? ESS, we're using after-school tutoring in which students are grouped based on their MAP data and activities planned around that data. We received an extra special ed position that has allowed for additional co-teach classes in reading and math, and we changed our schedule structure this year so that all special ed students are in co-teach language arts and math versus resource language arts and math, so that they have access to a content specialist, which would be in 6th grade Mr. Knight, and the strategy specialist, which in 6th grade would be Mr. Johnson. So when they were in resource, they only had access to the strategy specialist. Now they get the content specialist as well. So we have more co-teach classes than we did in the past. And we are giving six benchmark assessments throughout the school year that provide us with just another data point to place students in and out of intervention.
Benchmark assessments such as like K-Prep benchmark type things?
Right, we design those ourselves. It's not something we purchase.
It looks like based on the K-Prep predictions, like if you look at reading, I mean, to me, it looks like the 6th grade is the most lopsided as far as distinguished versus novice. So I assume that's why we're doing English language arts, that kind of stuff. We're being more.
Well,
Am I reading that right?
well, yes, but those extra ELA positions were because we were a focus school because of our reading scores, right, which I'm sure you know by now that we've gotten official word that we no longer would have been a focus school, right, or a focus district. So I think that says a lot for our current leadership as a whole.
But it sounds like the things we're putting in place, hopefully we can move these predictions with our next assessment or whatever. If we move
I also have several teachers that are participating in the Universal Design for Learning pilot. It's a differentiation pilot using differentiation strategies within a mixed ability grouping class, using their map data to design instruction just for them. My whole language arts staff is a part of that.
When is the winter testing? I'm just curious, when's the next, like, it's in the February yet,
I think we take ours when we come back from holiday.
yeah, that's what
It's like
Yeah, January.
second week of January.
We try to do it as quick as possible.
I just was curious.
This is good, a lot of good information, thank you, and Donna, thank you for your work too, helping out on these, so.
So we have 4 areas that we focus around. We call them our what matters most areas. Our anchors, those are student achievement, college and career entrance preparation, gap reduction, and innovation. At every council meeting, we look at these 4 areas, and under these 4 areas, we have a plethora of activities that we look at. On the full report, you would see color-coded activities. Red, yellow, and green. Green areas being things that we are currently doing. Yellow things are things that have been accomplished. Yellow things that are in progress, and red things that we haven't. That report's about 4 pages. I didn't give you all of that. But I pulled from that report to give you kind of the highlights of that. So for student achievement, the positives, of course, you all know this already, but overall scores increased by 10.8 points. From 67.9 to 78.7. The concern with that was that achievement scores were still low compared to the state averages in all those areas. So some of the things that I wanted to highlight for you all that we are doing for that. In math, we have Leslie, her name is Leslie Texas. She's a math consultant. She is working with our Algebra 2 teachers on curriculum and instructional strategies. Of course, we have new Algebra 2 teachers in place this year, so we felt it important to support them with their curriculum and instruction. So she is working with 3 of our teachers and the math department on curriculum and instruction. Also for our new, not just math, but across the board, some of our new teachers that are in the MAT program. You all know with K-TIP, they start K-tipping and get support already. If the MAT program, they do not. So we felt it important, and Mr. Cornett worked with us to allow us to kind of do an MAT mentor program as well. So they're getting support with that as well, and I think that's very important. For writing, all of our junior students are going to participate in on-demand writing scrimmages at least 2 times. That's important because writing is across the board, and those scores were low, so we felt that important. We also have Laurie Pierce, who of course has a degree from Center, so we're utilizing her, and in the spring we'll be working with small group instruction in writing and for college essay writing as well. We also purchased Reading Plus, a diagnostic, and we have already taken the diagnostic on that. All students have, except for one small group. And we have those reports back. So now we're in the process of looking at those diagnostics and seeing where our students fall in the different categories to see who needs the most help, who can be pushed onward and upward. So that's some of the things we're doing with student achievement.
Is that Reading Plus, was that across all grade levels?
It was, yes. There were a few students who were in AP Lit and who were in Ms. Francis Junior English that did not take it for certain reasons I won't go into, but yes, those, and most of those scored at the what's called the 13 level, which is college ready level anyway, so they really wouldn't have benefited overly from the program. As far as college and career entrance preparation, The positives for that, graduation rate increased by 3.9. We broke 90% for the first time ever. And college and career readiness rate increased by 5.9 points from 74.6 to 80.5. A concern for me was, and our staff, was that ACT scores are somewhat stagnant. They're just kind of hovering, not going up, not going down. They're just kind of like right there. We've tried to do a number of things since I've been around, not just me, but our staff. We try to do ACT prep after school, but it's very hard. It's hard to find people. And technically, if you work with the ACT or give the ACT, which that would be all of our junior teachers, you are technically not supposed to do ACT prep after school. So, there's a lot of things you run into. We had an ACT teacher this year. She's no longer doing it, so we're currently trying to work with Center, trying to find some Center students to come and help with ACT. So we are still trying to do ACT workshops after school. And it did work well last year when we had Mr. Groves and Miss Branson, but now Mr. Groves is gone and Miss Branson's not able to do it, so we're still trying to find people to do that, because we did have some students to stay last year. The big change with ACT this year is the CERT program that you all helped us to purchase. We actually have our first testing day tomorrow. All sophomores and juniors will be taking that for the first time. That will give us and students diagnostics back. It'll let us know where the students, not only let us know, but it will help to prepare the students. So I'm extremely excited about that. Then our admin team, we are gonna hold conferences with seniors and juniors not on track to graduate. And then the same admin team will also conference with freshmen and sophomores for career pathways, because I think that's somewhere we've been lacking. It's kind of putting those kids on track, what they want to do and setting their goals. As far as gap reduction, our gap scores increased by 44.3. 8 of 8 areas showed novice reduction. Of course, the concern is, and still is, that gap scores increased, but achievement went down. And everybody's, how did that happen? Well, when we got to, as a staff looking at it, we were like, what is it, and what are we seeing? And a lot of this came through with what we saw through walkthroughs across the board in our school. We decided as a school, to look at rigor and relevance. What's going on in the classroom? We want to set higher expectations, not just among staff, but among students as well. Accountability. Mediocrity is not acceptable. Yes, you scored proficient. That's not good enough. Let's score distinguished. You scored apprentice. That's not good enough. Let's score proficient. So it's pushing everybody to the next level, not just the novice up to the apprentice, not just the apprentice to proficient, but even if you're distinguished, you got to go somewhere. You can't just stay. You got to keep going. Even though that's the highest you're going to get, you still have to go and have a goal to go beyond that. So we looked at increasing rigor and relevance. We had growth mindset training for, saying, I haven't learned it yet. The big key word, yet. That a kid might not learn it right now, but it's that they haven't learned it yet. And getting that mindset among staff and students that it's, even if they don't get it today, they'll get it tomorrow, or they'll get it the next day. And changing mindset is very difficult. And then teacher toolkit for engagement, getting our staff to try new things, getting our students to learn different ways. So opening up that engagement piece. No fluff and know your role. We don't have time for the fluff. We got to focus every day. And you got to know your role. What's your role? Where are your kids? Where are they every day? Tracking that data every day and knowing who those kids are. Not just the kids who are not performing well, but also the kids who are performing well, and where are they going. So it's every day. Where's Lori going? Where's Susan going? Where's Paige going? And they might all three be going a different way, but you got to know where they're going. And our innovation piece, which is probably the most difficult piece sometimes to handle, is what we're doing, with the Danville Diploma Skills. We're working towards changing up our capstones, integrating those more into the capstones where they're not so the capstones aren't so much alike, trying to decide what we're going to do with intercession, if we're going to do intercession, and then trying to ensure that we're doing PBL in instruction. So that's kind of where we are.
One of the questions I had was back to the ACT. I know you had mentioned that all juniors and sophomores will take the SIR 2-3 times in or the ACT. Now, there's always been the junior day for the ACT. Will the sophomores be doing that now as well?
Well, that's going to be up to you all.
Okay, that's next. Oh, it is next, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to say yes. Yes, they will.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Do you feel like when you, as far as like the gap reduction or the increasing rigor and the no fluff, know your role type thing, do you feel like, teachers are definitely behind you on that? I mean, as far as increasing the rigor or?
I think the majority are. Sometimes, like I said, mindset is hard to change, and you can't make them change. They have to see that and buy into that,
Right.
and that takes time.
No. I mean, this is great. I mean, I love the focus areas. I think y'all are right on point with, kind of understanding what the areas that need to be worked on and everything. And I appreciate the effort and know what you all are doing.
As far as the intercession, do you feel like that takes too much time away from regular instruction, or why the thought to maybe not do that?
Well, intercession is divided. It's a house divided.
It's getting a little more focused on that, though.
It is. It's according to what you want out of intercession. That's basically what it boils down to.
Because there are probably some students that take more advantage of it than others.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
But
timing is hard.
Timing is hard.
Timing is hard.
If you want it to be student-driven learning, but you want it to have meaning, it's very difficult.
Right.
This is, I should know, this Bailey's done it for 3 times now. Is it 3 pays? Is it typically
No,
been like a
and that's
one-day
the problem. We just really don't have a real strong, we've had a parent meeting on it, we've had a teacher meeting on it. We just are just trying to get to a solid place on it, and that's been the discussion this year. And it's really, March is a real tough month, and, there's a couple of calendar dates in there that are kind of killing us. And
Yeah. Well, we appreciate y'all working on it.
the APT's in there, and,
Yeah.
Mr. Ross, I
struggling a little bit.
just want to make sure folks are clear on one point. I don't think we've had a chance to discuss as a board. That in regards to college readiness this year as compared to years past, if you didn't make benchmark on the ACT, you're able to take the Compass or the Coyote. When Senate Bill 1 was passed, and they changed it to a college admissions test only, and not a college placement test, it eliminated any second chance test. So it's a different challenge to the high school, still a focus on the ACT, but the ACT for our students becomes an all or nothing arrangement.
So
And that's true for every school in Kentucky, which is going to be a real issue for, well, every school in Kentucky.
and not that we haven't said ACT matters before, but this year we're like, repeat after me.
When
ACT
did
matters. It
When did you
matters.
start working on ACT? I mean, do you start as early as, because I know some, we're talking about maybe taking a sophomore, but some of those kids, the kids that are performing higher are probably learning that content as freshmen. I don't know, I don't know if people wanted to take it earlier, because
Anybody can take it.
I just wondered, because that's one of those things that'll help every student the further they get, it's just.
Do they still have that available on the internet to practice that ACT?
They do.
I'll do that.
And that's what this CERT is doing.
Yeah, and even probably when you were on the board, Dr. Look had shared predicted, kind of like what Donna did as far as MAP scores, put a crosswalk to your K-Prep. There are MAP scores that are predictors in 3rd grade of what an ACT score would be.
And there used to be tests that led up to the ACT, but those are no longer in existence.
Yeah.
The Plan and the Explorer, but they don't have those anymore. Now it's just the ACT.
And it's important for us to have as much data as we can because we don't have math, like the elementaries in the middle and,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as I get started, I can't say enough about my staff last year, going through all the challenges that we did. One note, 5 of the 7 teachers who were teaching in grades 3 through 5 were new to that content area. And anytime you're teaching at grade level, you have an upward, some type of learning curve, learning the new content. Additionally, the construction and the moving, 3 weeks prior to the assessment itself, they stuck it out and performed admirably with our 3rd year showing positive results in a row. Anytime you look at data, you have to look at what did you do. And so the 3 initiatives we had was co-teaching for novice reduction, which addresses our gap area. We experimented with a new math program, and we allowed teachers to deliver the reading in a different way than they had in the past, which attached to our achievement. And the last one is student growth, which we correlate with student engagement through our Leader in Me process. So we made positive growth in all content areas and achievement. We maintained our 10% novice reduction in 3 of the 6 areas with no slide in the other 3 areas. And finally, our reading and math. Our math growth was almost double what it had been the last 2 years. And the most importantly about that is it was growth in all areas: novice, apprentice, distinguished, proficient. And notably, our distinguished students who were needing distinguished the year before, every single one of them were in the 85th percentile in growth. So they were growing, they stayed distinguished, and they grew 85% above the rest of the students in their peer group, which shows that we're targeting all students in all areas. So this summer, the core team went to novice reduction and school improvement training, and we looked at the 6 core processes, and we came back and developed a plan for our reading and math. And what you have in front of you are some of the areas in which that's our focus, as far as we call it a school WIG, is a widely important goal. That's the terminology we use with the Leader in Me. And so we established that 80% will meet 85% of the mastery of their, I'm getting of the mastery. Thank you. And so you'll see the way that we're actually tracking that through assessments. Most importantly, we're looking at formative and summative assessments pre and post as a coach, and then bringing those to the PLCs. And we're having teachers identify the students that are the percentage of students who score 85th percentile and higher. That correlates more with Common Core, the College Career Ready standard, which is a higher standard than just proficient and distinguished. And then we're naming those kids, and then we check and see if those are the students that we actually had identified in our Tier 2, Tier 3 groups as well. Looking really hard at our computer-assisted instruction programs, your CAIs, and we've changed some of that up, and some of the teachers are experimenting with some other computer-assisted instruction as well. Tiered instruction, overall achievement, again, changing the programs that we did, that's a Tier 1 issue, and that also allows us to have discussion around how the teacher sets up a unit and differentiating that instruction for students across the board, and then sharing that with their co-teachers so that they can help support that, as well as instructional assistants. PLC focus you'll see there is, again, formative assessment, and we're really focusing on those instructional strategies, methods, and effective planning, which is at the core of how you differentiate your Tier 1 instruction. And finally, as you've heard from others, observation and feedback. Hattie correlates feedback not only from teachers to students, but administrators to teachers is one of the highest growth factors. So I think the teachers are appreciative of the feedback. Questions?
Well, just like you mentioned, I know it's not been easy for you all with all the changes in construction and just making it all work. I'm more excited to see once we get to next fall and it's all Yeah, thank you for this. Not yet. I'm sorry, Catherine. I know. I know.
Oh, you gotta be joyful.
I don't want any of this to be a repeat from last week, but some of the kind of because I shared some of it with you. That's okay. Much like Sherry, I didn't see her chart, but we have something that we use from MAP, the concordance table. We used our spring MAP scores. That's what you see in the first column, and the second column in bold is actually what is scored on K-Prep. So with the exception of third grade distinguished in reading and fifth grade novice in math, all of those numbers are within 3. So that's 3 students. I feel like our concordance table is pretty accurate. I mean, if you want a good predictor, if you can get within 3, you know, much says they're on target. The problem was that is when we had a shift of 3, they shifted the wrong way on both the top end and the so the first one is math, and the second one is reading, and those numbers are there. You can speak with them for themselves. The year before, we had about a 12-point jump in our index and thought that, oh, a lot of these things that we were doing were working good. We got this great big jump in growth, a lot of reduction in the novice area, had addressed a lot of concerns in gap. And so we thought, oh, well, we need to do some of these things again. And we did. We repeated them last year and tweaked them and tightened them up. And that's what you see there on what we did. And some of those things we're still continuing to do now. Whether it be what we're asking teachers to bring to PLC meetings to see exactly what's going on and who did not perform well on this assessment. Let's focus on those kids for our next Teach Day. Whether it's bringing Mastery Connect data to see again who did not perform well, and to make sure on that top end, I think just like Ron said that, or Haley said that, we want to make sure that our kids who are distinguished are still growing. It's not like, oh, you've reached the mark, you're done, just take the rest of the year off, let's keep going.
Some things looked at this same data, kind of like Sherry did with the fall?
Yes.
And is it consistent with what you're seeing here? It is.
I feel like it's a good predictor. Of course, you know, looking from third grade kids where they were in the spring and then again where they are in the fall. Yes, there's all kinds of things to data. Tells you lots of stuff. But in response to our K-Prep scores directly, we definitely have changed some things up this year, and I shared a lot of that last week. The reteaching days is one of the ones that we feel like we are not letting anyone slide through. We are addressing that at least once a month to completely change up our schedule, our lunch schedule, our related art schedule, so that we can pour tons of assistance. Each grade level would have several additional helpers to reteach standards that were not met. And we're starting our second day, reteach day tomorrow. Please come, please check it out, see what we're doing. Some of those standards that were not mastered on the first reteach day those kids will see them again tomorrow. We've got to get those taken care of and mastered. We've changed up our ESS program too. We used to really watch those kids that were right on the bubble of bumping up to the next category. This year we are focusing on high growth, low achievement. So those kids that are really making lots of gains but still aren't performing where we need them. And we're at whatever category they fall in. They are in a big growth pattern and we really want to push them on. So that's who we've targeted for our ESS, either before school or after school programs. We've also been very intentional about how we're using our collaborative times and our collaborative classrooms and how those instructional strategies are delivered to address that gap piece. Again, special ed is an area that is challenging, and we want to make sure that we're giving lots of support and being very, very intentional about what we do with those kids. Tier 2 and 3 instruction, shared with you, we have 18 RTI reading groups and 13 math every day. That happens. One other thing that we're doing different this year is we've trained some staff in Barton, which is a very intensive reading program. And because you all supported us with additional personnel for intervention, we are now able to deliver that in one-on-one setting very intentional, one-on-one, no less than 3 times a week. We've used our Title I grants and other fundings for Title I staff and programs and Chromebooks. And we feel that being one-to-one in 2nd through 5th grades is making a huge difference to enhance that blended learning model and making those groups smaller. And again, you're on the hook twice as much in those kinds of classrooms. I have to just kind of chime into what Haley said about the power of yet. We focused a lot on that last year, trying to get kids to, when they were on their blended learning program and they were not being all successful, to give them that time to have that productive struggle. If we can teach that and we can fix that mindset when they're in elementary school, Sherry's going to benefit from it, Haley's going to benefit from it, and the kids are going to benefit from it just ultimately in life as learning how to tackle problems and work through things that are hard and difficult instead of giving up, I quit, somebody come help me.
No, thank you very much.
So the beauty of going last is I can say ditto a lot of times, but you will see a lot of similarities in the programs and the approaches that we've taken at Hogsett. The first page, the one with the numbers on it, I chose to focus on K-Prep trend data just to kind of give you an idea of where we are and where we've been. We also see a big correlation between our MAP results, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. One of the things that I included kind of quick facts about the makeup of our school, and one of the things that I wanted to point out was our free and reduced lunch status is, last year was 87.5%, and it's just good information to know and realize that that's part of our school, our makeup of our school. So most everyone at Hogsett fits in a gap group, so. If you can see, I color-coded, you all know that K-Prep is broken into 3 categories of achievement, gap, growth, and that gets you the total score and the overall score. I color-coded our scores, and you can see growth from 14-15 to 15-16, all the way to 16-17. We've made some gains. We are not where we want to end up being, but we have made gains, and so I think it's important to make sure that we recognize that. Our overall achievement is up 0.4 from the year prior. Now, we're focusing on reading and math tonight, kind of talking about those categories, so those did go down, but just slightly from the previous year. Down in reading 0.4, and then down in math 0.9. Our gap score was up from the previous year, and then you can see like novice reduction, we made great gains, 35.6 points in our gap, in our novice reduction. Another thing that we're proud of too is our growth. Overall, we had a positive growth factor of 0.9, and then we did go down in reading, 0.7, but our growth went up in both math and then our categorical growth as well. So overall, from the previous year to last spring, we did have a gain of 6.1, so we're proud of that fact. One of the things though that we're working on to continue to grow our student achievement is working on student engagement. We feel like, at Hogsett we're trying to make sure that every student was engaged, and not just being present, but also engaged in the learning. And one of the ways that we've done that is most of our core classes are done in centers. We have whole group instruction but it used to be that it was whole group instruction with the teacher in the front of the room and the students sitting in nice neat rows and just sitting there and supposedly gathering information. But now we've got centers where it's more one-on-one or small group. And we'll talk about some of the trends or some of the focus on achievement, and that's with the student engagement piece. We also, just like some of the others that talked about, we are boosting rigor, and that's definitely a conversation piece in our PLCs, our monthly PLC meetings. We meet twice a month. And then student responsibility for learning. I think Robin just kind of touched on that a little bit. When the going gets tough, not backing down, but really kind of digging in, and having the confidence that you know, as a student, you can learn this and you can be successful. So that's kind of been a hurdle. One of the things that we've been trying to focus on building in the students is not just the academic piece, but also the confidence piece. And then their ability to show what they know. We're often, or sometimes we were surprised by students not performing on the K-Prep at the level that we thought that they were capable of. And so that's something that we're addressing as well. All right, and if you look on the back page, you can see the areas that we focused on. And I did break it down into reading and math. In reading, Title I and general funds were used for intervention positions. And part of the reason why we were able to do that is because of the funding for some of the positions that you guys funded for this year. We were able to shift some of our money around. What that ended up being was adding 1.5 positions in intervention. I was also able to kind of hold back Title I funds for 2.2 positions for the Encore and RTI program. And what that allowed us to do was I was able to have more teachers be involved in the RTI portion of the day. And so that allowed smaller groups. And that's one of the things I'd like to invite you all to our Encore time. It's every day from 10:30 to 11:30. You'd be able to see some of the small groups that are going on, and then also some of the students that are on grade level, some of the, not really enrichment, but some of the way that we're addressing their needs as well. And for that Encore time, we do use map data, and our groups are fluid. So as students grow, they can go in and out of those groups as needed. Part of what we also do, and along with the groups being fluid, we have made a greater emphasis on regular progress monitoring. For reading, we use multiple measures to assess the students. DIBELS, DRA, our MAP, and then also leveled passages. One of the things that we're finding is we have such a wide variety of reading levels that making sure that what they're reading is appropriate for them helps them. We're trying to build rigor as well, but that was one of the things that we are focusing on in reading. As far as grant money and money that has been provided, we've talked about, or we've purchased RAS Plus, which is a program that focuses on engaging in motivational informational texts, and that's one of the things that we found we needed to boost was students' ability to take informational text and utilize it. We've also updated classroom libraries with high-interest books, and then also DIBELS online progress monitoring tool. Just like Robin mentioned, Barton, another program is called Orton Gillingham, and we purchased materials for struggling readers. And specifically with reading, we also have ESS programs and family learning nights and literacy nights. For math, you'll see the first 3 bullets are duplicates from up above because they're the same thing. Our interventionists that we were able to add to to reading, we also have for math as well. They're not they're the same people though. So, but we use them for both reading and math. Same thing with the Encore or RTI program. We try to make that an even between reading and math. And then as far as the progress monitoring, we use multiple measures in math, and that's the KCM, fluency assessments, the AVMR, and SNAP are also different math assessments that we do periodically. We have before and after school help in math, and that is found using ESS money, and then also like simple programs like a homework table at breakfast time. We have a math club after school. We also have family learning nights that focus on math as well. Our Hogsett has a grant that allows us to employ a math intervention teacher in MIT. It would be similar to our coach, instructional coach. She co-teaches during core instruction, and that is something that has evolved over time. A few years ago, her mindset was, I need to reach as many students as I can, and so I'm going to teach small groups and small groups and small groups and small groups. Well, we've changed that mindset to where half of our time is small groups, and then half of our time is working with teachers to make sure that they are becoming better math teachers themselves. And so literally half of her time, her morning is co-teaching in the classroom, and then in all grade levels. And then her afternoon is with small groups. So she gets to do a little bit of both. As far as math goes, we also focus on mathematical practices, which are similar to the standards, the Kentucky standards. But for example, we're finding, if you jump down to the third bullet there, the conceptual understanding, we're finding a lot of the students are able to do the problems, but not able to apply them. You know, they're able to do the math maybe, but not apply them when given a word problem. And that goes back to reading, you know. So those are the types of things that we're focusing on. And then the last thing, using grant money to purchase manipulatives, we're trying to make our learning hands-on with math, because we found that a lot of our math learners are not just, you know, pen and paper, or pencil and paper, but they need to actually visualize it and see it. And so we're making a concerted effort to meet those learners as well.
On the gap, like the math, that number dropped pretty drastically.
From last year to this year, yes. And so one of the things, and you know, we are, when you talk about K-Prep trend data or K-Prep scores at all, it really has to do a lot with that grade of students. Right. So that might be something that we could follow and see if that particular third grade class, for example, right, you know, is a struggling class.
I was wondering if it was across the grade levels or just one particular grade, or do you know?
Well, I do know, but I don't want to necessarily call anyone out. Most likely it would be, it is a grade level that is, you know, kind of skewing it in that way. So I think that's where, you know, when you look categorically or across all the grade levels, you know, that's kind of a better marker of what's going on. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you all to the principals and everybody else that helped. This is information that just helps us kind of see what your plans are and directions you're going, and we really appreciate the time you all put into putting this together for us. So thank you so much. All right, Ms. Merrington, Mr. Ball, moving on now, where I was jumping ahead as well, to the site-based presentation.
Well, I think Maurice and I think the cat's out of the bag as to why we're here. Okay. Maurice and I are the parent representatives for Danville site-based, and we are here to talk about the ACT, and it matters, and we are asking for your financial help to pay for all sophomores to take the ACT this year, particularly, and for years to come. We'd like our sophomores to take the ACT. We have two particular dates in mind, which would be the February date and the April date. We would
February and April?
either, so that they
have a
you know,
choice.
they would have a choice. They could, and we'd like to get them all registered. Our goal would be, because of the college and career readiness and our focal point at Danville High School, to have them take it. And our goal is to really be proactive in this, because we want them practiced, we want them ready, because some kids will only take that ACT one time their junior year in March. And if they have the chance to take it their sophomore year and see that test, so we can target them and gather data on them, and so we can spend that next year preparing them with our CERT program and our practice within the classroom, then we will have a better chance to get them ready and to have them college and career ready. They'll have a better opportunity to look at that for college, to become college ready, and they'll have a better exposure to the test. That test is overwhelming. And if you're taking it for the first time on March 20th when you walk in that door and you don't know what that is, it can be just absolutely the scariest thing in your world, especially for timing and just how to pace yourself. It's a pacing issue. So we want kids to have the opportunity to take it a year ahead of time. And having that data in front of us and being able to target our kids and practice and be prepared. And that's why we're asking you to financially support this, so that we can have the money to do that. And I think, if I'm correct, we would register them the best we can at school and have it paid for immediately and not give them a ticket or a receipt. That's correct. And we would incentivize that, and pizza afterwards, and to really make them want to come and do it, because we need kids to buy into it. And we're going to do that. I think that's our goal, is to get kids to buy into what this means for their future. And I just think that's where we are at this point. We want all of our kids to buy in.
What is the cost of the test?
The cost is $46. We have about 130 students.
Okay.
So you're talking about $6,000. Now, you can go to the extra extent in the April test and buy the scores come back, which is an additional $20. Which we would love to have as well. We'd love to have that data so we know what they missed. But
So the difference between this and the way the juniors do this during the day, like
they do. They would have to come to a Saturday test.
This is a Saturday, so you're not gonna.
The juniors do it this way for one more year. All of this goes out to bid again. So this is the last year we know for certain that the state pays for all juniors on the March date to take the ACT.
Okay.
Might be something.
Okay.
Yes.
So
these would be Saturday tests.
Okay. And what? No, that's okay. So I was going to say that's just the biggest difference. Obviously, you want to get 100%, but no, you're not going to. But so that's just the difference between when they do it junior year.
Sure.
As of right now, it's during classroom time, so you've got a better captive audience.
Sure.
With the
And we're
juniors.
not asking to prepay all of them,
Okay.
only the ones that come and sign up with us. Now, that's not to say if you come and sign up with us and you don't show up.
Right.
I mean, we're taking that risk. However,
Sure.
we have incentivized it to, we've given them some incentive to do this,
Sure.
tied in with the CERT. And you
Okay.
can go home and ask your kids what that, well, you have a senior, so you
Yeah.
can ask her if she didn't have any. But if you ask our sophomores and juniors, they know what that incentive is, to make benchmarks
Okay.
on that ACT.
Okay. So basically, we would be paying
What will be this?
however many register,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
What's the timing of that, they're doing that test tomorrow, the practice, and what's the timing? Aren't we doing that another time too? When
We'll
is
do
that?
February.
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 Right.
So how does its date compare to the February actual ACT Saturday?
The actual February date is like February 9th, if I'm not mistaken. And what will we do?
February 10th
Is the real ACT?
is the real ACT.
Yeah, so close.
And April.
No, the CERT is January.
Oh, in January, I'm sorry.
January 20th.
So
And
February
April
9th is the real date.
Yeah, the CERT, the next CERT is
January.
the second, well,
Must be around the same time we do math.
Yeah.
Mm.
January 20, it'd be the Wednesday, I think the 24th.
Oh, that's right.
It's either the 17th or the 24th, that Wednesday.
And then the real ACT is February 10th.
Yeah.
So it'll be a few weeks after.
Usually the second weekend and
Because we were waiting on intercession dates for the cert.
What was the reason that when we had looked at it, when we did that, where we gave them a voucher and they paid and we were gonna reimburse them for the Saturday testing? What was the reason why we couldn't just blanket say, we're gonna pay for everybody? Was it because of the fear of everybody wouldn't show up, or?
It was a board decision. We gave you both options and the board opted for it.
I'm definitely in favor of the more you see it. I mean, I was a good student here in Danville, but I was a horrible test taker. And the more I saw it, and I had to learn strategies to work it backwards so I wasn't competing speed-wise with anybody. I mean, I really had to work very hard at it to get my scores where they need to be.
it is a lot of strategy involved.
And it's
in
a
it.
lot of stress, even for
It is
the
very
highest.
stressful.
Yeah, so I think the more you see it, the more you can do it, the better. So, I mean, I think the pressure, financial pressure of, you know, some kids are at an advantage because they can take it more. So I think the more we can help them do this,
Yeah.
I'm all in favor of it, so.
Well, I didn't say much, but I knew that if Kathy went first, that I probably wouldn't have much to say. But anyway, I just wanted to say, you know, what you touched on as far as we need the kids to take it at an earlier age, just prepare. You know, I'm a sports guy, I love sports, and I can use any kind of analogy with football. You know, they have preparedness and be able to take, like you said, it's overwhelming. You just get one chance. You know, if you can take it, then you can see what areas you might, you know, you need to help in, and also to help Ms. Rawson in what areas we might need to work. You know, if it's a role in math, we might need to look at how we're teaching our math to help the kids improve their score in math overall. So, you know, I just think that, you know, the more you take it, the better it is. The more you practice repetition, I feel like repetition is one of the things. And a lot of kids probably don't take it for financial reasons and different things. And, you know, we really need to give an incentive for them to take it. Because sometimes when you're a sophomore, you don't realize the importance of this, and you wait till you're late and take it, and then, you know, you might not have another opportunity to take it. So this, you know, this definitely goes in with our ACT, what we talked about earlier, so.
Well, and I'd like to see, you know, I mean, just especially even from the kids that are in the sports, like having the coaches and everybody in and say, this is really important. You know, you may be great on the field, but you need this score to help you get in. And, you know, to have it come in from all sides, because I think that's where they don't hear it. They may hear it from a science teacher or something, but, you know.
Well, I think that's where we all have been talking. I think that's been a discussion in the many meetings that I have been in, whether it's been the handbook for athletics or the site-based meeting. I mean, it's all been a discussion. We all want to buy in here. So
So as far
we
as
want your money.
As far as the diagnostics, I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting that on the 2 practice tests, but it would be the difference if we're saying $46 versus $66, so like.
In the April test, you can take that test and then you can get the scores back if you pay for the additional 20.
So it's like a 6,000 versus 9,000.
But you don't know, some kids might take it in February because you're probably going to need both dates, so because it may not be convenient in April for some of those kids. You know, you just happen to get some of that.
So we're saying, what you're proposing is.
What I'm saying is that you allow kids to take it on both dates, and then you pay for both dates. You know, like, if you can sign up here, you would get some of those kids, and then, or if you want to take it, you'd have to pick either date. Would that be correct, Mrs. Ralston?
I'm sorry, what?
That kids could pick either date?
The February, the April?
Yeah. It just happens if you take it on the April date that you could possibly get the date, the
The
data
data
back.
back if we offered to say, in addition to
Right.
not only paying for the ACT, for those that sign up that date, would be willing to get the data. And I guess that's one of the questions too. If you had the majority of your students sign up and take it in February and just a few take it in April, getting that data back, I mean,
worth
obviously any
it?
data you can get, but is it really,
Is it going to be
is it going to be
helpful?
helpful
I
at
think
the end?
the
I
cert
mean,
will
We'll tell you
be
more.
okay.
So maybe you don't have to.
And to ease some of the anxiety over the coaches and that, we had talked about, Mr. Cornett and I had kind of tried to talk about a plan to counsel the sophomores through this process, because they're gonna need help signing up for it. I mean,
Yeah.
going through the process of signing up for it.
Creating
is
an
gonna be
account.
anxiety,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
so having kind of a team to get the sophomores in and, say, hey, like you said, this is important, and let us help you sign up. Now, we're not gonna do it for them, because they have to learn to advocate for themselves. But we're gonna guide them in the right direction. And then if we could go that step further and say it's a football player, and it's Coach Dunn or Coach Clayton or whatever, we say, hey, draft this kid and make it important to them, give them that extra push. That would be a very much a positive, I think.
There's also a fair amount of work that's going to be necessary on the back end. It's one thing to encourage kids to take it. It's another thing for them to deal with likely not doing well. The math section of the ACT is predominantly an Algebra 2 to pre-calculus test. Most of our sophomores haven't taken it.
Right.
They're still halfway through geometry. So the chance of them
Not doing well in that
is,
particular
so you're
section is
setting
high.
kids up to run into a time in which they're not going to feel good necessarily about results. So the coaching is necessary to get kids encouraged to sign up and to know that no matter what the results are, we're going to take that as a building block moving forward.
You have to understand that it's a baseline. They have to understand it's a baseline.
Right.
Something to build on.
And again, that's going to come from you all helping them.
And I think it's going to come from parents too.
Yeah.
Because I think parents need to buy in as well, because, my daughter took it as a sophomore, and we went into it without prep, without anything, and it was, this is a baseline. You're going into it, you need to see it, this is your baseline, this is where you're starting. And, and some of those kids will say, okay, great, this is my starting line.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's.
Encourage them to, go work harder, like, hey, I gotta do this up, and it'll give them time to be able to, work on it and improve those test scores. Some people use that as encouragement to get it.
And when they see that Algebra 2 question the next year in class, they'd be like, oh, I've kind of seen that, maybe I can use that. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean,
All right,
Paul,
Troy.
are we okay funds-wise to do something like this, or?
I think with something important like this, we will be able to make that.
I know, I don't think so. Yeah. Any thoughts, Troy, that you want to share?
It shouldn't be an issue, just go ahead and do this. But I agree with you, especially with the parents. We've got to have the parents buy in, because sometimes even if you get the kid buy in, parent might not buy in, it might not work. We've got to have everybody buy into this. I did with my kids, they were home, we did it on the net, just to practice ACT. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, because it's a difficult test. I took it one time. I wish I had taken it more, but at that time I didn't have a lot of resources at that time. I just said, hey, you take the ACT. I took it one time as a senior, and that was it. I didn't have any other chances. So.
I think if they see the school placing value on it, then they place value on it.
Yep. But we have to get the parents to buy in.
An ACT just for parents and running copies. We have test copies, like old copies, practice exams, and running some and letting parents take it, to see just what the kid. I know, right? Yeah. And, let you all take it.
And we might even be able to open up, have that parent night, and then have them register with their kids, because it does sometimes takes you sitting next to them.
Because the February date is
January, isn't it?
I think it's like this.
Oh, we
Yeah,
might
it's
need to do
probably
it.
really pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So is this something that we're able to
vote on tonight?
Yes.
To vote on
Just takes a
tonight?
motion.
All right.
If you like, I can suggest a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say, make a motion to approve the request for financial support of the sophomores taking the ACT? Will that?
One time between January and June of their sophomore year.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the site-based request for financial support of sophomores taking the ACT one time between January and June of their sophomore year.
Second.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dean. Moving on to reports, the finance report, financial statement.
You should have attached to the agenda the financial summary for the month of October. Just to go through it briefly, we started the month of October with a cash balance of $5,439,000 and some change. You can see we had total receipts during the month of $2.841 million. Claims that we paid out in accounts payable of $1,391,000 and some change, payroll of $1,303,000, for total expenditures of $2,694,469.65, leaving a balance at the end of October of $5,586,268.23. You can look on the left-hand side, that's the current month, and then on the right-hand side is the same for 1 year ago, and see how we compare to where we were 1 year ago today. In the middle is the bank balance and the outstanding checks, which reconcile to the same ending balance. And then in the middle, you can see how those cash balances are broken down by the individual funds that we maintain in the district, all the way from the general fund down through the food service. We'll point out, if you want to look, the difference between general fund last year and general fund this year is up almost $800,000, plus the additional amount that we've thrown into the assigned funds, raising it to the $1 million mark, which we'll talk about here in a little while, what we're doing with those funds. Down at the bottom of the page is our continuing assessment of our investment account. You can see that our draw for the month of October was $526,000. I've also got what we just recently paid out in pay apps for November of $300,904.47. Currently, we've paid out $12,122,000 some change, leaving the current CD balance for the remainder of the project at $2,178,926.96. On the right-hand side, you can see the interest that has been earned on that account for the duration. In October, we earned $1,729.51, bringing us to a total for the life of the investment of $106,511.30. The second page of the financial summary is a general fund breakdown of the receipts that we received during the month. There, in the first column, you'll see for the month only of October, a total of $1.409 million, and then there's a year-to-date column which brings us through the first 4 months of this fiscal year. And then over in the next to last column, how that's the year-to-date at this time for last year, and then you can see how we compare from for this year from last year. Actually, for this year, right now, we're up from last year a little over $1 million. Of course, a significant portion of that is due to our carry forward that was added to this year, but you can see there are some things in there where we're over a little bit, a few things we're a little bit behind in. In the last page of the report is the general fund expenditure summary. Just like the receipts, the first column shows what was expended during the month, and then the year-to-date, and then we have also the budget in there, and then last year's. This year, currently through the end of October, we have spent $146,000 more than we had last year, mainly due to increase in payroll expenditures. Then at the bottom of the page, you can see the general fund balance of $4,449,000 and some change. Of that amount, $200,000 is assigned to sick leave escrow, and we have $1 million in the maintenance, which leaves a cash balance for whatever we need for operating expenditures at this time of $3.249 million. Any questions on the financial report?
Make a motion to approve of the financial report as submitted.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, moving on to the payment of invoices.
On the invoice payment report that you were given at the working session, we discussed the total accounts payable per the financial statement on the front was $1.391 million. Of that total amount, $526,000 and some change was for the Tolliver construction and renovation project. We paid out for the high school and John W. Bate middle school roofing project during the month, $295,000 and some change. So those were the majority of the big expenditures. Then we also had a debt service payment to U.S. Bank for $273,341. So that left, of that $1.391 million, slightly under $300,000 for routine expenses such as instructional supplies, repairs and maintenance, utilities, food service, those type of expenses. And in the summary I gave you, there were a few other items that I pointed out to you, that expenses that we incurred during the month. Asbestos lead paint testing at Tolliver of $1,210. We had some Gravely Hall maintenance items totaling $4,300. As we talked about, John W. Bates Study Island was $7,500. Some other items, Tolliver projectors and mounts totaling $10,840. And then there's some Project Lead the Way fees for the high school and the middle school, $3,750.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve a payment of invoices totaling $1,391,043.39 as presented.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And then we have the discussion of the Kroger tax assessment.
Do you want me to give some background information on that?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, what has happened is Kroger has decided to appeal their assessment for the 2016 tax bill that they were sent. Now, they've also turned around and done 2017, but at this point what we're looking at is the 2016 assessment. Their assessment on their building was approximately $5.5 million, and what they're looking to do is reduce that assessment to about $2.8 million, which would cost us approximately $26,000 in tax revenue. So they have appealed this to the PVA. PVA in turn reviewed this and turned it down. So they took the next step and appealed to the state board, which went and reviewed all of the information, and they also turned this down. But in the process, the fiscal court decided that it would be worth the interest, and I think to support the PVA office by representing them with counsel. Usually it would have been done by the county attorney. But from the explanation that we've received, at that time the county attorney was under the weather and not able to do that. So they decided to contract with a local attorney, Stephen Dexter, to represent them in the PVA at the tax hearing at the state level. And I understand them doing this because they decided, from talking to Eddie Tammy in the PVA office, that if they weren't supported on this appeal, then that would open a whole can of worms as far as some of the other assessments in the district. They would probably have to revise a lot. It would have cost a lot of money. So that's where we are right now. As a matter of fact, they have appealed their last, I guess their last stand on this is they have appealed the decision by the state board to the circuit court. So that's where we are right now, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Look and let him explain what they're asking.
Vince will clarify, you're going to hear from three of this. So essentially, we are essential bystanders in this process. We don't set the original value. We're not the PVA. And so anything that's been protested around these rates is a protest of the PVA. As Paul said, traditionally, it's been Richard Campbell, and then when Denny Danville has taken this up, they sought outside counsel. Judge McKinney, in looking at this, has explained that he would love for the Board of Education to help foot some of the bill for the attorney's fees that they use for their property value assessments. Admittedly, that the more that they set the value, the better that we benefit. This is the first time, although this type of dispute is not new, it's the first time we've ever been asked to contribute towards an attorney's fees. Judge McKinney believes that since we get, in his mind, 66% of the benefit that he would love for us to absorb, or contribute 66% of the cost of the extra attorney that they hired because of their transition between one attorney to another. Tag.
All right, get all of this done. And just to flesh out one thing Paul mentioned, when they had the initial hearing, and the hearing officer, they have a hearing officer who prepares a report and a recommendation to the Board of Tax Assessments, and the hearing officer actually was found in Kroger's favor. And the recommendation to the Board of Assessments was to, rule for Kroger's, and that did not happen. So the Board of Tax Assessments upheld Eddie Tammy's assessment. Now, as Paul said, it's in circuit court. And really, if anything, it's good we're having the discussion. It's probably premature to, get too far down the road, because the briefing schedule in circuit court is going to be set in December, as I understand it. That will take several months. Eventually, Judge Peckler is going to make a ruling. That can be appealed. I mean, it could be 2 more years before you have a final. So I think that County Judge Executive is looking at it now like, by virtue of the success so far in defending the tax assessment, that schools are a beneficiary of it, not a chip in. But we don't have a final ruling right now, and it may be a while. The statute provides that the county attorney does this. That's why this probably hasn't come, you've probably not been asked to chip in before, because typically the county attorney would defend it. It does allow, if there's a need, the fiscal court to appoint a special attorney to do it, as they did here, Stephen Dexter, who just, full disclosure, is my law partner. I think you all know that. But, so that's an option. The statute does not address it. I mean, as far as you can read in the statute, it looks like to me it's still on the county's nickel. It doesn't provide any way that, any requirement that the other taxing districts, whether it's the schools, the library, soil and water, conservation district, it doesn't require them to chip in at all. If ultimately the school board decided to do so, I think it's going to be based on accepting the sort of fairness argument. And I still, if we get to that point, if we're here when we have a final decision and the board's needing to make a final decision, we have a final decision of the tax assessment, and you have to make a final decision whether you're going to chip in or not. I think we need to look at a couple of the Kentucky constitutional provisions that limit what school districts can. You can't just spend the school district's money on anything. It's just like we're not supposed to abate tax interest and penalties on school tax bills. Even if you felt like it should be in a particular situation, you're really not allowed to do that. So I think if we get to the point where the school board is inclined to at least consider this request, we're going to have to do a bit of research and see if it's even an option. But I still go back, I think it's premature.
It's my understanding that to date, I think they've incurred attorney's fees of about $10,000. And so they're asking us for about 2/3 of that, according to what we would get out of the tax if they rule in our favor. And isn't it right that as this matter continues, that they continue with Stephen Dexter, and so there's no telling what the extra attorney fees are going to add up to?
If you agreed to do this right now, you really don't know what you're agreeing to.
Right.
You don't know how, because it could be,
Why didn't they turn it back over to the county attorney? Like, I mean, or is it just because Stephen, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I couldn't answer for it. I mean, it's unusual. I'm not aware of the fiscal court using private counsel for one of these in the past.
That's unusual.
I think we have to be careful too to consider in this request, what made the request sound palatable, is that it seemed like there was a winning outcome.
Yeah.
But once a contribution is made, the precedence is set that we are at least willing to entertain a request for external support, which would then also be applicable if they were to lose. So there's a lot of levels of analysis besides, hey, thanks for the funds, here's 2/3 of the bill. And while we've got time to think about and discuss it, we have to think about also from what precedent this says moving forward, be it this one or other bills that would issues that would arise.
Okay, so this could be a long wait and see.
I think so. We'll keep you posted, but I think.
Do you want to reach out to Mr. McKinney and let him know that we are holding, or would you prefer that?
Be happy to.
Okay. All
Thanks.
right. Thank you, Vince and Paul, for that. All right. So, next item on the agenda is the BG1 for the Danville High School bleachers.
As part of our conversations several months ago and the projects that we were looking to accomplish, one of them was the renovation, or actually not renovation, but just putting new bleachers in the top of the gymnasium here due to the fact that the others were so dilapidated. That was one of the things that we were going to pay for out of the assigned funds that we had accumulated. And so we've got a BG1 in place because we're ready to proceed with that project now. And what I'm asking for is approval of a BG1 for a total of $118,558. This is through the state price contract for Toad Vine, who handles the majority of the bleacher replacement in the state of Kentucky. Of that amount, $96,782 would be for the actual bleachers, and then $21,776 would be for the installation cost. And like I said, we would pay for that out of the assigned funds that we have. Any questions?
Questions?
Bleachers are expensive.
Yes, they are. And they will be very nice, and they will match supposedly what we have on the bottom, so that it'll all look good.
And that's in time enough for the where I guess we're hosting district or?
Yes, we will be hosting district this year, and this project will be done in January, as far as I know.
Be finished by the end of December.
December, okay. And we're cutting some costs by removing the old bleachers ourselves. So,
Update. We actually have someone removing them now for us at no cost. Even better.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the BG1 for the Danville High School bleachers as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, and the next BG1 is for the contingency adjustment.
Eric has provided me with an updated BG1, a revised, that we will send to KDE. What we are planning to do is move $400,000 from our assigned funds into this project to cover the cost of the columns and facade renovations that will be done. Initially, we had an estimate of about $500,000 that we had set aside for this, but it looks like it's going to come in under that. And now I guess there's a little bit of a question as to what we're going to do with the clock, so that may vary a little bit. With the change, there were 3 change orders that we were basing this on, totaling about $392,000. So it gave us a little bit of wiggle room with the $400,000. So that's what we're looking to do, is transfer that and send a revised BG1 to KDE. We get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I know it's too late, probably, it's on this front, but maybe with the clock tower, do we even look to and see if we could get any historic grants or anything, because it's a historic building? I mean, I know on Main Street they have all sorts of things, but I didn't know if within...
Normally those are historical tax credits that will probably have businesses can go after. Grants are a little bit harder. Normally we don't deal in the grants. We would help with tax credits and sort of things like that, but not.
I was just thinking, because of the age of this building and its history in Danville, that there might be money out there that, I mean, maybe for the clock tower or something, that's something we could look to, but...
I think the city of Danville, don't they give grants for that type of thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly Main Street. I don't know if they would consider something like that or not.
Well, it doesn't hurt to ask. Say, hey.
Look into it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the revised BG1